Hello there, my name is Ragnon, and this is going to be my 10.1 guide for Demonology in Mythic Plus. So, first of all, before I get started with anything in the guide, if you're somebody like me that enjoys watching guides and pulling as much info as you can out of each guide, but you're worried about if they're up to date or not, I always recommend looking at Subcreation. I'm going to plug this tool because it's a surprising amount of the community is not familiar with it. So, subcreation.net is the website, and if you go here to Mythic Plus, this pulls logs from every spec and every class for both Mythic Plus and also for Raid. So if you're ever curious about what the top demo locks are doing, then you can go here to Mythic Plus, scroll down, find where demo is, and you can find everything from talent combinations to trinkets, what slots everybody's using for their tier and stuff like that. And then if you ever want to look specifically at a log for info, you can click on any of these numbers here and review the log that way. So quick little plug for Subcreation. Getting started here, what are the pros and cons for Demo? Why would you want to play Demo in the first place? The pros that I think about Demo is it's got a versatile damage profile. With Implosion and stuff like that, you can do very good burst stacked cleave. It's very pug friendly. It doesn't require the tank to, keep everything very stationary like Destro would with stacking up Rain of Fires. If the tank is moving around a bunch, then it's okay. Your Implosion's going to follow him around. And then if in lower keys, if things are dying very quickly, then what you can do is you can save your imps from pack to pack to just do a quick implosion on the next pack. So it's also probably the best option in lower keys out of our 3 specs. If you're running certain builds, you can have very, very strong single target damage for bosses, and that's very helpful for making Tyrannical weeks a little smoother. And one of the final things that I enjoy about Demo is it's very active and fun to play. The rotation is a very satisfying and well-created rotation. The cons. It does have a little bit weaker AoE than it has historically in the past. Just a series of nerfs against dogs and stuff like that. It's got a bit weaker AoE. Still decent. It is a pet class, so it needs some more attention in dungeons. For example, when you're doing a skip or something, you have to make sure that you're dismissing your pets. When you're walking by things, you need to make sure that you're not accidentally pulling. Things like that, typical pet class things. If you're running Nether Portal, it means that you're now a 3-minute DPS profile, and that means that you need to have a bit more attention to detail with your cooldown timings, making sure that you have that up for every single boss and you haven't used it ahead of time, and now it's not ready when Lust and PI and all that are there. And then the final big issue with Demo is that it really does require a lot of specific gear to unlock its true potential. It's fairly strong it's on its own, but really the strength comes from some borrowed power stuff this tier. So let's talk about the gear. The gear that you're going to be wanting to look to get, first and foremost, is the class trinket, Neltharian's Call to Dominance. This is a very, very strong trinket that comes from the raid. It drops from Echo of Neltharion, and it's a rare drop, so unfortunately it does it is a little difficult to farm up. But if you can get your hands on one of these, this unlocks a lot of strength of the spec, especially in Mythic Plus, where you can farm up stacks of these, where you typically can't do that on the on pull in a raid. You can not Tyrant for a little bit before a boss, and then come in with up to 10 stacks, and that's very, very strong. That'll grant you 10,000 intellect, so it's very, very strong. And essentially it functions as a second on-use trinket. The second part of Demo's borrowed power gear that you're looking to get is Iridius Fragment. This is a trinket that drops from Halls of Infusion. This is another very strong on-use. It gives you a ton of intellect, and so this combined with the class trinket, you're looking at least 1,400 intellect. 14,000 intellect potentially that you can be getting when you have both of these popped together. Some other borrowed power things you're looking to get are, if you can manage to get PI in a group, you scale much better than with PI than many other classes. And the final thing is Lust. If you can get that Infinity Gauntlet of borrowed power or whatever, you can be very, very strong, especially on bosses. Let's talk over the consumables real quick, get that out of the way. So consumables, enchants, I like going for the avoidance enchants on both the cloak and the gloves or wrists. That's mostly for raid. For the chest, I use Waking Stats. For the pants, it's Frozen Spell Thread. It's a tailoring consumable. Pants, or sorry, excuse me, boots is Planesrunner's Breeze, which is speed increase. And then haste enchants for the rings. For food, I use Fated Fortune cookies before a dungeon starts, and that's combined with the alchemical embellishment that you can put on gear to make it last for 2 hours. And then Tepid Versatility is the file that I use. It's because it's cheap and it is very strong, and it will give you a lot more survivability as well. And finally, the rune I use is Howling Rune, which gives you some extra haste. Let's talk about some talent options. So there are a few different talent builds that I would recommend. The first and the easiest would be the Reign of Tyranny and Immutable Hatred build. So this is the build that I would recommend using as your go-to on tyrannical weeks. So what this build does is it gives you passive extra damage on single targets. So for bosses and stuff like that, this will get you some extra value without really needing to think about it. For fortified weeks, I would recommend running Guillotine. You can also just run Guillotine all the time if you're looking to beef up your AoE damage. This gives you some more AoE juice since your boss damage is already very strong. So this is, if I recommended one build to use in every single week, it would be this build right here with Guillotine. And then the final build that I would recommend is this Nether Portal and Reign of Tyranny Cleave build. So what this build does is it brings Nether Portal for extra boss damage. If you're having trouble on tyrannical weeks and you really need to get bosses down and you have PI in your group or something like that, this is a very, very strong build, and you can end boss fights between 2 and 300k pretty regularly for the overall damage for that boss fight, depending on boss length. If it's short enough to, just fit in one tyrant, then it's very strong. If it's long enough to fit in another portal and then another tyrant after that, it's also very strong. But if it's in that middle ground, sometimes it's not quite as good as it potentially could be. So problem with this build is it is a little bit more involved. The opener on a boss is very strict. You need to make sure that you do the Nether Portal opener correctly, otherwise you're not going to get good value out of it. The other thing is, if you're running pugs and stuff, sometimes I've gotten really thrown off by different routes and stuff that the tank does, and I used Nether Portal on a pack, and then suddenly he's going straight to a boss and he's skipping trash and stuff that I wasn't expecting. Or I'm used to going to a boss and then he decides to clear more trash and down the way, and you don't have it. You're just sitting on it for a long time. You could have gotten an extra use. So Nether Portal can be a very strong option if you really want huge boss damage and a little less on trash and stuff. Your overall is going to suffer with this build, but your boss damage is going to be second to none. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with, we'll look at the Nether Portal build first, because it's the most involved. Also, it's a 3 minutes, so it'll put it on cooldown while I'm explaining it. So I'll just explain the boss rotation. The trash rotation's always the same for all the specs, with small variations. So I'm going to go over the boss rotation first, because it's a little bit more tricky with Nether Portal. So first of all, you want to make sure that you're coming in with 2 imps up, and then you can use Power Siphon to get 2 stacks of your demonic core. And then you go ahead and Shadowbolt up twice to get up to full. Nether Portal, Grimoire, Soulburn, Vile Fiend. You're going to Demonic Core, Dreadstalkers, and then you're just going to alternate between Hands of Guldan down to 5 seconds, then cast Tyrant, and then fit in 2 last Hand of Guldans. Then you pop your Trinket, Demonic Strength, your Potion, and then from here on, you are just spending 3 shard Hand of Guldans. It's a pretty strict opener. I'll probably type it up and pin it in the comments of this video so that you can see it. But the nice thing about this is once you've got that opener completed, you're not doing very much damage until the next time that Tyrant's up, so you can focus completely on doing mechanics and stuff. The demonic core procs really make it a very mobile spec. You want to use Vile Fiend, your demonic strength, dogs, and power siphon all on cooldown. In single target, pure single target, you do not implosion, so you can just let your imps do their thing. They'll do a lot of damage with their firebolts. So that is the rotation for Nether Portal. While my stuff is on cooldown, let's quickly talk over, gotta leave combat here. Let's talk over the AoE rotation. So this is the AoE rotation for all the specs. If you have Tyrant coming into a pack, then it would look like this. Side note, you want to be spending as many demonic core procs as possible so that your Grimoire Felguard lines up with your Tyrant. That's from your class set, your 4-piece here. That is one of the really strong things about Demo. This tier is the class, the tier bonus, which aligns Grimoire Felguard with Tyrant. So the rotation coming into a trash pull with all your cooldowns up, except for Nether Portal, would be you want to make sure that you have 2 imps. You'll probably have some left over from the previous pull. So you Power Siphon, Shadowbolt up to 5, so that you can start doing your thing. Then Grimoire Felguard, Vile Fiend if you have it talented, dogs, and then you just alternate between demonic cores and whatnot to spend 3 shards. Hand of Guldan. When you start getting to about 4 seconds, go ahead and pop Tyrants. 3 or 4 seconds is safe. And then you want a Demonic Strength if you have it up. You want to be ripping that on cooldown, so a lot of times you may not have it up. And that's essentially the opener for an AoE pack. When Tyrant is about to end here, you can see all these have 2 casts left. I'm going to go ahead and Implosion. You want Implosion before any imps expire, especially the imp bosses. On my particular weak aura, the imp gang bosses have this blue. You want to be Implosioning before any of those expire, because what happens is they'll give you an imp back when they are imploded. So the filler rotation outside of your cooldowns is keep dogs on cooldown, keep demonic strength on cooldown, and then an easy way to get full value from your imps is to cast 2 Hand of Guldans with 3 shards each, and that will summon 6 imps, and then you implode. You can fit in more than that, but that's a nice muscle memory amount to do, and you'll still get full value, and it's worth the global for the implosion with that many. So 2 Hand of Guldans, and then implode. That is the overall AoE rotation. The only change from that for the other builds would be, first of all, if you're running Nether Portal, you do the exact same opener that I did on the bosses. The only difference is you would finish off as your Tyrant has expired. You would finish off with Imploding. That's the only difference. And then if you are running Guillotine, then the way that looks is you will Guillotine on cooldown. When it happens to align with your Tyrant, it does get buffed by that, but you don't want to be losing uses of it. It's a very strong just ability you can throw out for extra AoE damage. But typically what my opener with a Guillotine build would look like is this. I would Power Siphon to get up to 2 stacks of Demonic Core, build up to 5, and then use all my cooldowns, Grimoire Felguard, dogs, and then start spending 3 shard Hand of Guldans. I'm looking at my dogs timer here. When it gets to about 3 seconds, I'll go ahead and Tyrant. So I'm Tyranting now, just to make sure I catch it. Then I will Guillotine first. And then when Demonic Strength becomes available, then I'll use that. Fit in dogs during the Tyrant window. So right now I've got 6 dogs chomping, which is very strong. And then implode after Tyrant is done and begin my filler rotation again. You want to use Power Siphon on cooldown so you get as many demonic core procs as possible to shorten the cooldown on your Grimoire Felguard. So that is the rotation for both boss and AoE for all three builds. Just the small variations if you're running Nether Portal or Guillotine or whatever. Again, the abilities that you're always keeping on cooldown is you are always using Guillotine, Demonic Strength, Dogs, and Power Siphon on cooldown. For every pack that you possibly can, I would recommend using Tyrant, and you always want to link up Tyrant and Grimoire Felguard, and Vile Fiend if you have that talented, if you're running the Nether Portal build. You want to make sure that all three of those are used together, and that you make sure that you catch Dogs, Vile Fiend, and Grimoire Felguard with your Tyrant. Make sure that none of those expire to get full value, because it will refresh the duration on them. That's the rotation for AoE and single target. Let's look over some skips real quick for Warlock Gate. I wanted to finish off with talking about some awesome skips that you can do. So first of all, Neltheris, the Forge boss. Where is he at? Right here, Forge boss. You can actually place a gate from the ground here up to the edge. So if you skipped trash or if you skipped these and you don't want to path around and pull them or something, or if you just want to save a little bit of time after the boss is dead, you can drop a portal from the ground to the edge. It's a little finicky. You kind of have to. I like to aim be a little bit beyond the edge and just catch right there, and that typically tends to work. Another nice skip is in Brackenhide Hollow. You have Stink Breath. Where's he at? So there's a bridge with Stink Breath. I am spacing on where that is. Right here, Stink Breath. You can actually drop a gate from right here over to here. Or if you can't quite reach it, I don't remember, you might have to do the far side of the bridge. But in any case, you can use a lock gate to skip Stink Breath, which is kind of an annoying bit of trash. So that's a nice lock gate you can do. Another one is on Freehold after the first boss. You can drop a gate from here to this bridge, skipping this Enforcer. A lot of tanks just pull it anyways, but that is an option. And I'm sure there are some that I'm missing, but those are some big ones that so far have been very useful, and I'm sure that more will appear as the season goes on. I'm sure there's something that I'm forgetting to include in this guide, so I will include it in the comments along with that Nether Portal opener. If you have any questions, please feel free to hit me up. I do check comments daily, often many more times than once a day, to try to respond to comments. And I'm a teacher in real life, and that's a passion of mine. I love equipping people with knowledge and helping people along their journeys. So thank you for watching, and have a great day.